Hey guys, how you doing? Good, I hope. It's really quiet and weird in here in room 212, still here, all by myself. Even my fish is home. I took Walter home, so he's in isolation with my cat. So hopefully he's still alive and the cat's not trying him out for a little sushi breakfast here. Today's lesson, I'm going to show you a little bit on how to divide with exponents and a lot of simplifying with bigger exponent terms. Okay, so we've got two basic rules we're looking at today. I kind of alluded to this in another lesson, but if we have the same base being divided, we can simply subtract the powers. If we had a fractional term inside parentheses being raised to a power, we're going to raise each part separately to a power if that helps us in our simplifying process. So let's do this one out the long way like we normally do, and then we'll use our little shortcut we've got here. If I had 5 to the 4th power, if I were to expand it out, that means I have 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. If I had 5 to the 3rd in the bottom, 5 times 5 times 5. Now if you think about it, when you are reducing any fraction, if your terms are all being multiplied, you can cancel like that, and so my answer would just be 5. You don't have to expand it out every time though, because as long as you have the same base being divided, we can just subtract our powers, and 4 minus 3 is 1. Now if you have 5 to the 1st power, you can write it like that, just a 5. Just kind of realize in your head that there is a power floating around there. Okay, second one I gave you, I've got x squared times 1 over x to the 3rd. So my x squared term here, you can think about that being over 1 if you want. If we so chose, we could write this as x squared over x to the 3rd. If you wanted to write the powers, now this one is a case where if I subtract my powers, if I go 2 minus 3, I'd have x to the negative first. And since a negative power we don't want to leave as our answer, we'd use our rules from the last lesson that I gave about negative powers, which means that's 1 over x to the 1st in the denominator. Sometimes on these, it isn't even as quick to go ahead and use the exponent rule. If I had 8 to the 2nd, so 8 times 8 times another 8, right here like that, 8 to the 5th, 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times 8. I personally kind of think it's easier on some of these to just expand them like that, because then you can see what you can cancel off and where your answers are. Be really careful about in the fact that I have 8 times 8, so I have 64, but that's in the denominator. If everything else canceled in my numerator, then there's technically a 1 left there, so I'd have 1 over 64 as the answer for this. Now, using all of those rules, and I'm sorry, I kind of feel like I'm talking fast, but it's kind of hard when nobody is sitting here looking back at me and I can gauge if people are understanding what I'm saying or not. But hopefully if you need to, you can play it back if you need to look at it a little bit more. The last one I wrote, this one up here, big ugly thing, right? 2x squared y over 3x times 9x y squared over y to the 4th. I frequently, when people first see these, are like, eyes get big, throw up their hands, and maybe throw up, I don't know, but just get a little overwhelmed. So what my suggestion would be on this is to try to break it into smaller bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to break this into 3 parts because I've got numbers, I've got x terms, I've got y terms. So my number terms, I've got a 2 and a 9 on the top, and I've got a 3 on the bottom. I'm going to simplify that by itself in a second. So I'm looking at that as one problem. Then I'm going to look at my x terms. I've got an x squared and an x term on the top. Everything's being multiplied, so there. And I've got an x term on the bottom. I'm going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to look at that as like a second problem. Then I've got y's. I've got a y on the top, I've got a y squared on the top, and I've got y to the 4th on the bottom. I can basically write this as one big fraction since everything's being multiplied. Now we can go ahead and multiply these things out. So we're going to look at the number part. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I have a 6 in my answer, and that's in the numerator. Now as far as x's go, I can go ahead and combine them together, or I can just be like, hey, those x's cancel off, and I'm left with an x squared. And my y's, what do I have for y's here? I've got 3 y terms on the top, right? I have a y and a y squared, and I had a y to the 4th on the bottom, so 4 y's. So 3 of those cancel off, and I'm left with just 1 y down here on the bottom. So my simplified reduced answer for this ugly mess up here, it all breaks down into 6x squared y. So don't forget on these, don't panic when you see them, break them into smaller bite-sized pieces, and then you can just do 3 little mini individual problems. All right, guys, I've got to go. It looks like I've got a meeting downstairs, so I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.